Hey fellow Xers, it's your old buddy Jesse, and I'm back with another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today's topic is going to be brought to us by one of our fellow card-carrying Xers who goes by the handle Dougie Av. I probably mangled his username. It might be acronyms and abbreviations, but I think as long as he knows who I'm talking about. Today we're going to talk about whether or not we were valued as children back in the 70s and 80s. I never really thought about that before until he brought it up in the comments. I'm thinking about it now. My parents didn't value me and my brothers and sisters. I mean, that was obvious, and it seems like that's a common denominator throughout our entire generation. You know, just get out of the house and leave me alone and come back when the street lights come on type of thing. And our opinions, I mean, you know, to value a child's opinion and, you know, that stuff, I mean, what, you can go old school with that. There's a certain amount of coddling and pandering to a child's opinions and stuff. I don't know how much of that I agree with. I think a certain amount of that indifference from adults is just the nature of being a child. There's got to be a happy medium there where it's healthy for the kid and the kid grows up with a good self-esteem and good values, and at the same time isn't completely ignored. So I'm going to go ahead and go down this list that kind of prove that we were valued during that age, even more so than the generations before us, and since then, the generations who came after us. We were targeted by really cool things and valued by the people who created these things. Number one thing, electronics. We were the first ones and maybe the last ones to have electronics made for us specifically. Before us, they didn't have many electronics, and what they did have was, you know, family, for the entire family, a radio, a television, the big oak 800-pound television, you know, with cabinets built in it and stuff. And since then, nowadays, a lot of the electronics is a phone or a game console, and it's not the electronic device that's specifically made for the kid. It's the software applications that you install on the device that are made for kids. And they're not real. They're digital. You don't get to hold that software in your hand. I bet a lot of kids nowadays, they have their mom's old phone, something like that, their older brother's old phone, or whatever the case may be. They didn't get a brand new phone for themselves, and it's certainly not made just for kids the way that the first Nintendo was. And we all have those little digital, you know, just handheld games that played one single game, you know, and that kind of stuff. And those were created and marketed just to us. We had it, we held it in our hands, and we valued it and protected it from our younger brothers and sisters. And so that kind of stuff was neat, and it was just for us. Arcade, they had entire room in a mall that was just for kids. It was like walking into a fantasy land, all the beeps and lights flashing and your favorite game, and you could go in there and drive a car or ride a motorcycle or shoot zombies, or yeah, it just seemed endless. Fly a spaceship, shoot asteroids. But you didn't go into that room and see adults unless there was an adult working, you know, behind the counter and changing out coins or whatever. But the room was always filled with people your age. It wasn't an adult place at all. There were no adults there. Adults didn't play video games back then. Back then, video games and comic books and stuff were for kids. They weren't an adult thing at all. Nowadays, a lot of us have brought that into adulthood, and we still play video games and, you know, read comic books or whatever. But back then, it wasn't like that. Those arcades were just for us. They were our domain, our territory. Saturday morning cartoons. That was a slice of programming set aside for us kids. There were no adult commercials. There was no adult programming. They had those little public service announcements just for kids. Jack and Jill getting a job, and the bill on Capitol Hill. Hey, you hanker for a hunk of cheese. Hey, look, it's a wagon wheel. And my favorite one was Yuck Mouth. And he was Yuck Mouth because he didn't brush. How's about a little kiss? Y'all gotta remember that. All right. But yeah, Saturday morning cartoons. Me and my brothers and sisters, we'd all get right up in front of the TV and sit around it in like this half circle. I mean, we could have easily watched it from the couch. We had better eyesight back then, but we wanted to be right up, sitting right up there close to the action, I guess. But that was a special time just for kids, and I think that added to the feeling of being valued. MTV. We had an entire station just for us. It was our music, nothing else. They started making cartoons, Beavis and Butthead and all that. And but that was made just for us, targeted to us. You know, adults just didn't watch it. Those R-rated movies didn't come on until late at night on, like, you know, public broadcast television, when they used to have the rabbit ears and stuff. They didn't play the grown-up movies until late at night. Looking back, I remember, you know, I wanted to stay up. I wanted to watch those movies. It would make me mad, you know, that I didn't get to watch those movies. But at the same time, I felt like I was being protected. I knew I was being protected. I was being shielded from that stuff. So somebody cared. Even if my parents didn't, somebody out there cared. You know, somebody out there knew that that stuff was not appropriate for me. And that sunk into my head whether I wanted it to or realized it or not. Somebody out there gave a crap about the content that was being broadcast into my head and made a decision to shield me from it. I think that's pretty cool. To go along with that was that public service announcement, do you know where your kids are? And I remember seeing that on TV and thinking, my parents don't care where I am. You know, you're wasting your time broadcasting that into my house. But at the same time, somebody did. Somebody cared enough to make that public service announcement. Somebody spent money on that. Toys R Us. We all remember Toys R Us. No, I grew up poor, and I didn't get to go to Toys R Us very often. I think I went once or twice my entire life. You know, my parents weren't going to take me in there and let me run around the place and then drag me out without buying me anything, so at least they had that much sense. But I remember going there once or twice, and it was just like some kind of walking into some kind of different world just for me, you know, like it was built just for me. All that shiny packaging and the cool toys and games, and now that's gone. You know, kids don't get to experience that anymore. And before us, you know, the older generations, they didn't get to experience that. Probably some millennials did, but that's really a Gen X thing. It began with us. And this sort of ties in with the first one, the electronics, but we had a lot of toys, really cool toys made just for us. Transformers, when they first came out. Those things were so awesome. And Cabbage Patch Kids. And that list could go on for a long time. There's a big list there, but those are two of the main ones that I remember. Nowadays, like I said, you know, everything's digital online. You have one device and all these kind of things that are online, apps and games or whatever that are online that you don't really own but are kind of yours. You know, they're not comparable. Holding a transformer in your hand and making him do stuff is not even comparable to pushing buttons online. So back when McDonald's used to have those play areas where you go out and jump around and play around out there and stuff. I don't know why they did away with those over the years. Maybe too many kids got hurt. I don't know. I could probably look it up, but yeah, I remember McDonald's used to be like this little miniature Disney World or something, you know what I mean? It used to be a really fun place to go and for kids to go play, and then the Happy Meals were so special. They had all the Grimace and the Hamburglar and all these cool characters, and they really, really marketed a lot of that stuff to kids, and that made you feel important and like they wanted you to come there and have fun. And they also had skate rinks and those teen clubs where you could go to the club, and they didn't serve alcohol, but they had clubs just for us, and skate rinks. We'd all go to the skate rink and mess around, skate, or just hang out or on the outside. A lot of them had video games, around the outside of the skate rink or whatever. You could play video games or just hang out outside in the parking lot and talk to your buddies or whatever. But they had those kind of things that were just for us. Like I said, adults didn't go there. Adults didn't hang out there and spend a lot of time there like we did. Those were buildings just for us. And that's the kind of stuff that makes you feel valued, even if your parents didn't. Doug, who had been a subscriber for a while and a very important contributor to our comment section, I think he had a really valid point there. We were valued, even if it flew over our heads. In my case, it certainly did, until he brought it up and I thought more about it. If you'd like to support the channel by buying me a cup of coffee, I'll leave the link down in the description. Thank you very much. I'll leave you there with those thoughts. I hope you're having fun with the channel. I certainly am. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like the video if you did in fact enjoy it, and leave a comment down below with any thoughts you might have or any ideas you'd like to see in future videos. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.